Anders, are we ready?
He says yes.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
Correct. Then welcome everyone to our OIG Roundtable number 12. Today is December 19th. And we have a guest here with us, Lukas Sliwka, CTO of Wax, and we are going to talk through the Wax technical roadmap for 2024. Hello, Lukas.
What's up, guys?
Wonderful. So let's agree that we raise our hands whenever we have questions, and whenever there's a pause, we will get into those questions. So that's the format for today. Lukas, where do we want to start on the technical roadmap? Shall we go through quarter by quarter, or shall we?
Yeah, I can just kind of tee it up and talk about maybe, just kind of like these larger buckets, and then I'm assuming you guys have read through it already, so it's probably more worthwhile to just answer questions. From a high-level perspective, I think there are just these large initiatives that we can talk about geared towards several objectives. So number one, if you look at the roadmap, there's a heavy emphasis on improving protocol itself. So in all quarters, you see we're kind of starting with tokenomics release, where we are going to release the power up, and then we're going to be tweaking the parameters to see how we can kind of make sure that the model actually works for us. So tokenomics is kind of this one big bucket that we're going to be focusing on next year. The second bucket is really going after RAM improvements. So, I mean, as you guys know, being a block producer, it is very difficult to operate a producer on Wax or any sort of APIs, just because of the fact that we've got a lot of data. There's a lot of accounts that have been created, and there's been a lot of smart contracts that's been deployed. So the state chain, the chain state is large, and it all has to be sucked into and pinned in memory in order to work. And that is really not sustainable long term. So we've been limping along. We've introduced paywall to kind of neuter the account creation that was going on back in the day, especially because of the botnets. So that kind of improved things from a perspective of not having such a rapid growth when it comes to accounts. But that is really not something that we want to do long term. We want to make sure that we can open it up, remove the paywall, and then be able to add large amount of accounts without putting too much burden on operations of the chain. And this aspirational billion-plus accounts, that's just kind of the end goal. But I would be happy if we can make improvements that allow us to create 100 million, 200 million accounts during the next bull run. I think that would be very good if we can do it comfortably without putting too much strain on you guys, hardware-wise, and then everything works. And then, and then the third bucket in the protocol area is really making easier for people to launch nodes, launch infrastructure, and then do it in a way so it's standardized, and do it in a way so developers, people who want to join our ecosystem, can set up their local testnet. They can set up then infrastructure that maybe connects to the mainnet and still work, be able to develop. So we're just kind of do it in different tiers. We're going to start with bringing support to Cloud Wallet to the testnet. We're going to make sure that we standardize DevOps, scripting and operations, so you can launch nodes and have them running both for development, but also for other pieces of the infrastructure, I guess. And then also focus on the cloud, because people are lazy, and the fact that we recommend someone to run things on hardware as opposed to being able to spin something up very quickly on Azure, on Google or Amazon is a big friction for essentially this ecosystem being adopted. So so that's kind of the launcher series, and that launcher series is going to culminate with development and launch of a chain that's going to be very likely L2 to Ethereum. It's going to be native in that ecosystem, and it's going to have hooks and necessary plumbing to connect to our mainnet in a way so that that sidechain will be our Ethereum L2, and people will be able to use it and then deploy smart contracts from EVM ecosystem, but still access Wax.
All right.
And then the last bucket, I guess, in the protocol, and that just kind of spans across various different areas, is the developer guide. So I think we need to really lean into building and providing end-to-end examples of how to build on Wax, because building Web3 applications is not necessarily easy. Someone coming from Web2 space, they don't necessarily understand how things work, what are oracles, what are indexers, why would you have indexer, how do you account for chain reversals, and how do you build compensating transactions, how do you then connect it all to the front end, how do you build smart contracts, do you build smart contracts versus what should be on chain versus what should be in a centralized system. So that's a huge area, and I know that Wax Labs has already some very good projects in the pipeline that will be addressing that. But I feel like we need to commit our team to also do those things, so that we generate as many guides as possible before the bull run, right? Because I keep hearing from a lot of people that they hear about Wax, they come to our ecosystem, and it's painful to find support and find documentation to be able to build things.
Fully agree. I mean, the rebranding from Eosio to Antelope didn't make things much easier when looking for documentation and examples and actual code to use.
Yeah, so that's the protocol. And then along the lines, we're going to also do our normal Antelope protocol upgrade. So we want to upgrade to 5.0 at some point. Once instant finality is available, we'll probably upgrade to that version. So hopefully that's going to happen in 2024. And then there's a whole bunch of other things on the Cloud Wallet side. So I mentioned that Cloud Wallet is going to start supporting these Testnet, starting with Testnet, but then it will also start supporting all the side chains. So there will have to be like a sidechain registry developed, but the goal is for Cloud Wallet to be able to support all that growth. And then we're doubling down on mobile. So I think that the mobile space has finally matured enough where these Apple Store and Google Play Store rules have relaxed when it comes to crypto applications. So I'm hoping that we can actually release the wallet and have some really, really good integrations with the Unity and Unreal at some point, so that you can build Web3 applications geared towards consoles, where you offload Web3 interactions away from your game as much as possible, and that interaction happens on your phone. So the way I envision this is that, you know, you have Xbox or whatever console you're using, and you're playing the game, and then whatever interaction with the chain that needs to happen actually happens on your phone, right? So you get a push notification, or you have your wallet opened or whatever, and that's when these things happen. And you don't have to worry about that polluting your experience within the game itself. So that's the dream, right? And then when it comes to other projects, we want to kind of dig into a better Wax name service, so we can talk about that. And then doubling down on social features. I think if you look at the crypto space and the wallets and marketplaces, I think we've talked about it for a long time, but you know, bringing in the power of social networks and these algorithms that link people is going to bring a better user experience, and then both for game developers, application developers, and collectors, you'll be able to better engage with the community, and then for collectors and players, you'll be able to discover your community and connect with people. So that's kind of from high level perspective. And the same thing goes for Vstrike. I'm sorry, vIRL Marketplace. And then Vstrike is going to be a version of vIRL Marketplace that is going to be geared towards skin trading. And you know, this is kind of going back to our roots. As you know, that the genesis of Wax was on the heels of OP Skins Marketplace. And you know, we finally have bandwidth, we finally have resources to be able to dig into that space. And you know, especially now when you look at that space, it looks like the skins trading market is about the size of it's about $20 million per day. So it's a fairly sizable chunk of volume across like all the different marketplaces. So, you know, for Wax to be able to capture a percentage of that, and like I said, go back to our roots is something good. And we'll see how that goes. Let's see if there's anything else here that I'm missing.
Right. Maybe the universal listing service deployment.
Yeah, so universal listing, you know, in full disclosure, we are in discussions with Wombat on this subject. You know, the last thing I want to do is to build something that is reinventing the wheel. You know, if we can work together and come up to some sort of agreements where existing service is refactored and then moved on to an account that can be managed by multi-sig composed of all the VPs, then fantastic. But I have that on a roadmap because I feel it's a critical ecosystem type of functionality that we need, because you know, I think we got very lucky that Wombat, who's very Wax friendly, ended up purchasing Atomic Market and all that infrastructure, which means that from the continuity perspective, everything works. But like I said, we got very lucky. This could have been a complete disaster when, you know, imagine if that was taken over by someone who's not Wax friendly and they you know, they just shut it down. And then we would have major problems. So I want to make sure that going forward, these key infrastructure pieces, aside from just protocol itself, but key ecosystem pieces, are identified and then refactored and managed by a community through some sort of a, you know, open source program. And that's kind of like a high level overview of what we're going to be doing in 2024. I mean, I see this roadmap as very ambitious. It definitely builds upon the momentum that the team has generated in 2023. So I'm super happy about that. And there are some pretty exciting additions here, I think, that should benefit all of us.
Right. Great. Thanks for the breakdown of the roadmap. We already have one question. So, Michael,
Dive in, man.
you posted it in chat, but you can
I guess
ask.
it was kind of a question, but you had talked about the launching of the nodes. We had dug a lot into that simplification of the launching of the nodes. There was a big initiative for some of that on the EOS side of it with the ENF, and just trying to identify all the different types of nodes and different configurations and trying to streamline that. It actually sounded like you progressed into it being the L2 ETH sidechain that would spin up in the cloud. But that the comment is that you're right, it's hard as hell to even just spin up a regular node, which is really no different than a BP node when it comes down to it. But there's been a lot of work and a lot of those weekly discussions about identifying what are all the different types of nodes, API, block producer, state history, even trace API, if it's an exchange.
Yep.
So that was really what I was mentioning. I didn't know if that was an initiative on the WAC side, if y'all had talked to the ENF about, either talk to them about it, because that's, a common thing that everybody complains about, or at least I could point you to some notes that, we had that.
Yeah, once we actually start doing this as a project, then we'll be all engaged in it. There's been some discussions over the last really 2 years now since WAX has joined the ENF. So yeah, there's been a lot of discussions and talk. However, when it comes to the prioritization, a lot of these things did not get as high of a priority in the past. So the reason this is on our roadmap, and the reason why I'm not, let's say, waiting for Antelope Coalition to address these things, is because I see this as a massive friction for WAX adoption, right? And I'm thinking from, let's say, from a developer perspective. If I'm a developer that is already building on Avalanche, or building on Polygon or Immutable, they have 50,000 different tools, companies that support these networks. I can spin up a node within 5 minutes and have a fully functioning development environment, and I can start coding, right, within an hour. That is impossible on WAX. So we have to change this, right? The next year needs to be, if I'm a guy that has a project on Immutable or some other ecosystem, and I wanna try WAX, I need to be able to do that very quickly and easily, without going like spelunking and figuring out, getting frustrated. It's difficult right now. So we gotta fix it.
Absolutely. Happy to get in that conversation whenever you
Yep.
dive in.
We'll be definitely kicking that off. Like I said, January. There's been some work already done that is very valuable on our side when it comes to just like automation through Docker and Kubernetes and some other frameworks like Amazon CDK, and those are all very helpful. But at the end of the day, people are used to spinning up a service very quickly on Google or Amazon on Azure, and just be ready to go within 5 minutes, right? So
Okay. So we have another question from Anders. Anders, are you able to talk at the moment? Okay, I guess that's no. But Anders is asking to clarify, is that EVM sidechains and side nodes, or both EVM and Antelope nodes in cloud?
can you ask that again?
To clarify, is that EVM chains and side nodes, or both EVM and Antelope nodes in cloud? Honestly, I think I don't understand the question too.
He's asking, I mean, is it the Wax native Antelope-based nodes that you're talking about being able to spin up in the clouds as well as those EVMs? Because EVM can spin up in the cloud pretty easy. But are you looking at being able to easily spin up an Antelope?
The answer is yes to all of it, right?
Both, yeah.
Both. Yeah. So we need to be able to do this in the cloud. You know, if someone decides to do it on the bare metal hardware, that's fine. But this has to be cloud based and as easy as possible.
It's going to be tough, but I look forward to the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I may put that one in between. The tokenomics upgrade. Do we have any more concrete timeline on this, like January, February, or?
Yeah, I would like this to go live in January. We've gotten a couple of bids for security audits, and I've been reviewing those this week. I think I know who is going to do it for us. So that's gonna take obviously some time, but I'm hoping that, you know, we can get it released end of January, beginning of February.
Okay. Wonderful. So, do we have anyone else?
Any other questions, guys?
We got Lukas here today.
I mean, I could talk to you forever, but I don't want to dominate the conversation. I will, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we asked to get Lukas here a few times before. Now it's your chance, guys.
There you go, right? Well, I don't want to be the only person. There's plenty of other people doing it.
Come on, Michael. You know you want to.
Lead the way.
I'm curious. Yeah, I mean, when I saw it, you know, about the EVM sidechain, I mean, it's exciting. I definitely think it's a branch into a new world.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that, you know, like will be either option, I don't want to say required by the BPs, but I mean, how about this? My thing is running chains. So I'm just more curious, how do I run one? But that's more, how's that going to be? Is that?
Yeah. Right. So there are two pieces to this, obviously, and I think you hit a nail on the head there, because there's obviously technical bucket in terms of how we're going to do it, right? So you know, what technology, are there any partnerships, you know, all this stuff. So I can't really talk too much about it because there's a lot of discussions behind the scenes with various different partners, let's just call them. But as part of that, you know, I don't want to launch something that exists in a vacuum, right? I don't want this to be sidechain that is just another flavor of some sort of an EVM chain that doesn't have connectivity to some other ecosystems, right? That are developed and agreed on and all that stuff, with support from the other side, because that to me that's a waste of time, and it's really stupid, right? I think the key for success of something like that is there needs to be a connectivity part of the larger ecosystem, and that there need to be tools in place that allow fungible, non-fungible tokens and all the assets to essentially move about, right? So that's just kind of the technical and just kind of ecosystem challenges that we need to solve. And I think that's very ambitious for us to go after, but I think that we as a team and the ecosystem, we're actually ready to just kind of dig into that right next year. From a perspective of the operations and tokenomics, that's TBD, right? But a sidechain like that will have to be run by someone and operated by someone. Once we get closer, we'll be definitely talking to VPs and work with OIG to kind of make sure that we have a plan in place to roll it out in a way so that you guys are prepared and you guys understand what are the hardware requirements and operations requirements, what the compensation is going to be, and then how this is going to all work in the existing ecosystem. So what's up, Anders?
Anders, yes.
On that topic, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
What is the long-term vision of the side chains? Are they going to be run by BPs? Are they going to be run by the projects? And on top of that, do you vision them mostly being EVM chains or also other Antelope chains?
So I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know the last. So whether this is going to be all the EVM side chains or Antelope or Wax side chains, we'll see. I think that the market will answer that question for us once the technology is here. But when it comes to who's going to operate the side chains with that sidechain registry, this is something that we will all work through. But my personal feeling is that the projects will start running these things themselves, right? So that's going to sacrifice certain level of decentralization for them, and maybe anonymity. But at the same time, I think that would be kind of first step for a project to get a sidechain going, and then as opposed to us putting some sort of a framework in place that forces governance and tokenomics onto a project and VPs. I much rather have that to be negotiated by the project themselves with the VPs that they wanna work with, because let's say I have a game that I've launched and is very successful, and I started on the mainnet, but now it's just kind of getting too much, right? So I want to launch my own sidechain. So I'm going to elect to do that for certain functions, running it myself initially, right? But then I may start running into regulatory problems because now it's centralized, really, despite the fact it's a blockchain sidechain. So if I want to avoid that, now I would start negotiating with BPs and say, hey, do you guys mind to run this sidechain? And that sidechain could be maybe 3 nodes or 5 nodes or 7, right? Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be 21, right? And then the compensation could be emitted from the project treasury using their tokens, not necessarily Wax, right? So I want to create options for people, and I think the less we how to say this properly, the less I don't want to create something very rigid and something that is going to be forcing people into a corner, right? In order for this to be successful, in order for us to have adoption, it has to be very easy to set up and then and configure, right? And then the operational and tokenomic aspect needs to be flexible as well. So that these sidechains can essentially exist in a way so that the mainnet wins and we offload operations, and the Wax piece still benefits from a perspective of being a utility token that kind of powers this whole thing. But at the same time, you need to have room to be able to set it up in a way so that it makes sense for you as a project and then the block producers that you engage with. I've been thinking a lot about this year, and I kind of started in this world where it's all kind of paint by numbers and it's defined, and every sidechain needs governance approval from all the BPs, and then all the BPs are running it. But then the more I started looking at that, it was just a big clusterfuck. Like it's never gonna work, right? So I would say let's start with being flexible. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how the adoption gets done, and then I'm sure we're going to arrive at some sort of a good way to actually roll it out, so everybody wins.
Okay. We have a follow-up question for Michael.
Well, Pavel, I think hopefully he got his question asked, or answered. But yeah, I mean, I was going to say, is that sidechain? I know it's not built yet, but is it natively EVM? I mean, so if they were deploying on it, would they be deploying native EVM?
It would be, yeah, it would be a native EVM chain with certain layers that allow connectivity with WAX. I don't want to deploy a like a smart contract based EVM virtual machine on top of WAX. I mean, it's arguable, and I know that in our Antelope ecosystem, everyone is trying kind of various different approaches to do that. But ultimately, I don't think, like, my goal is native connectivity, and if you're gonna do EVM, then you might as well just kind of make sure that you get all the benefits, right?
The reason I ask is because when you said that was my thought originally, was separate and native, but then you talked about an app launching on mainnet and then maybe deciding to shift over and migrate. Well, if you're written in Antelope C++, I mean, how do you migrate to a native EVM chain?
You wouldn't. I mean, I don't think that would be the use case that you would want, right? So let's unpack why would we want an EVM in our ecosystem that is, let's say, in the ideal world, right? There's some sort of technology that exists that is an EVM that has native connectivity to Ethereum as an L2, and then has similar connectivity to WAX, right? Which means that assets from both magically can exist there. And I know that that's a pipe dream, but let's say that something like that exists, right? Then that would be really geared towards projects from the EVM ecosystem to kind of try WAX and experience that. So that's mainly DeFi, and then maybe some sort of applications that are like gamified DeFi. But ultimately, if you want to harness the power of WAX from a perspective of transaction speed and the cost of transactions and all that stuff, then you would probably still build on WAX or like a WAX sidechain, right?
All right. Well, like I say, I was curious, as projects ramp up on WAX, that migration strategy to a side chain, most of them would be thinking the same, like Antelope or whatever. Is that possibly in the mix of, and I know obviously down the road, but
we'll have to develop these guides, and that's a great question, right? Like I would imagine as part of that, we would have to develop supporting documentation that helps projects to make that decision, right? If I have all these options, then why would I go with one versus the other? And we will have to build that. And I don't have all those answers yet, but I would imagine that. So let's say in today's ecosystem, right? If I'm a new game that is or new application that's starting to build, and I know that I want to put a lot of my business logic on chain, then I would build on Wax, right? Because in other ecosystems, it would be very difficult to do. Having said that, let's be honest, Wax does not have the same liquidity like other ecosystems, right? So I would want to probably build a collection in a way so it can be listed on OpenSea and use some sort of bridging scheme so that these assets and drops can actually happen in the place where the money is, right? But still run things on a technology that works. And today in 2023, we've built tools that allow projects to do that, right? In January, we're going to release another version of the bridge. We're just finishing up security audits, which will allow not only Wax-based collections to be ported, but also EVM-based collections that started there to be ported onto Wax. So that if you have an application that started over there and you want to experiment on Wax, it would be very easy for you to move these assets if you wanted to between the ecosystems. So just kind of we've been building a lot of different pieces of this puzzle, and now I feel like we have enough Lego blocks to kind of start assembling them in the different ways to kind of experiment with providing tools to the community and not only Wax community but also people from other ecosystems to kind of experiment with what works.
All right. So Anders had his hand raised. I guess your question got answered just now, or do you still?
He's waiting on his still.
Oh, yeah, Anders. It's your turn. And then Pavlo, you asked a question in the chat. Can you please clarify the question?
Yeah.
No? Or...
Okay, excuse me, Pablo.
Yeah,
the order was Anders and then Pablo.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a rather technical question that I'm not sure that is ready yet, but it's about running the sidechains. Will that be using GEF nodes and like the beacons that they use for proof of stake now on Ethereum, or what's the idea there? I don't know if you're
It's
ready.
too early. It's too early for that, Anders. I don't know. We'll see.
I figured, but
yeah. As we get closer to standard, like figuring out the end-to-end framework, it's gonna happen. We'll know more probably by mid Q1. So sometime in February, we should start having these discussions, and we'll set up a separate Telegram channel for that particular initiative, so you guys can be up to date, and then we can collaborate.
All right, Pavlo, you have been waiting so long.
Yeah, sorry. Well, my kind of first question was answered partially during a few other questions, but is the main reason for actually creating this sidechain initiative for actually offloading something from Wax, or there's another reason for actually not implementing it natively in chain? What is the design goal for this initiative in general?
Yeah. So as scalable as Antelope is in general, right? The reality is that it's not infinitely scalable. So as we are getting into another bull run towards the mid to end of next year, and as we're pushing to get more and more projects in here, I want to make sure that we have options, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, right? So let's talk through a scenario where you have 3 or 4 different projects as busy and successful as Alien World was during the peak, right? So you get 4 projects like that. At the peak, we had about 800,000 daily active wallets with about what? We were doing 30 million transactions per day, which was about, what, 30% of the capacity of the chain at the time. So you do 3-4 times as much, and the mainnet is dead, right? So
Sure.
Well, it's not dead. It's just going to slow down.
well, I mean, so we gotta have options, right? We gotta make sure that we have all these tools in the box where we can say, hey, you know, if and I think that if I were to say, and you know, if we get to that state where we are as busy and we have those type of scalability problems, you know, to be honest, I mean, as hard as this is gonna be, I think it's a good problem to have, right? Because I think other blockchains have folded and failed at the fraction of what we were used to, what we were doing back at the peak, right?
Yeah.
Because other technologies do maybe, you know, a fraction, 10%, 5% of that sort of traffic, and they're dead, right? So everyone is on the other side also working on some ways to scale. You know, I think Avalanche has been very, very successful at setting up their, you know, subnets and side chains essentially, right? So they're very good at horizontal scalability, right? Then
But
ZK
that's,
rollups and all this other technology kind of addresses the another way to scale through maybe, you know, some sort of version of vertical scalability, right? So we need to also do that, right? So I want to plan for a time where there are a lot of projects, that there is a lot of adoption, and we want to have these tools in the toolkit where, you know, a project that is on the mainnet, that started on the mainnet, and now they are like, oh shit, you know, we've got so many transactions, we've got so many users, we're very successful, but we are now being constrained by the resource pricing due to our busyness, right? And we're being constrained because we have noisy neighbors, right? There are other projects that are very, very successful. So now we're all being squeezed. And now I think we need to have tools so that a project like that can say, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna run my own sidechain with all this stuff, and it's still part of the ecosystem. You have connectivity to the mainnet, right? And now I don't have to worry. So I don't know if a project would necessarily start on the sidechain right away, because, you know, it's more complex. You have to have these discussions, and I think, you know, it always comes down to economics, right? Most decisions are based on money, right? So they're not based because someone wants to be nice or whatever, right? Nobody gives a shit. I'm gonna deploy to mainnet because that's easiest. I don't have to worry about backend infrastructure, right? So what would incentivize a project to move to on the sidechain and introduce that extra complexity? Well, if they're on the sidechain and all of a sudden their users are not able to afford resource fees, that's a good fucking incentive to move to the sidechain, right? So I think economics are going to drive a lot of this adoption of these new technologies.
But I mean, those are really two different initiatives, aren't they? One is the bridging into the other platforms, right? To be EVM, to be in that world.
Yes.
Framework.
Yes.
So if I understand correctly, this is basically to alleviate the adoption of newcomers, basically new project that could kind of use the full speed of Wax-like chain.
Right. And thanks, Michael. There are two things, right? So the priority number one for me is making sure that we can operationalize Wax blockchain sidechains, right? So being able to launch sidechains that can operate a project and you still have connectivity to the Wax ecosystem, and you can manage that. That's kind of layer one, right? Now, once we have that in place, then I also want to have a sidechain that is EVM based. That's going to be but the purpose for that is different, right? The purpose of that is more like, why did we build all these bridges, right? Because we want people in other ecosystems to be able to plug in and use Wax as easy as possible, right? And if they cannot move assets around, then it's a moot point. So having an EVM chain addresses the connectivity part, but also that allows them to deploy their own smart contracts in Solidity, and they don't have to change much and still be part of Wax ecosystem, right?
Thank you.
So potentially the option to spin up an antelope-based sidechain and just move what pieces you need over, right? Deal with your own resources versus re-engineering to go to Solidity or some version. AVM on EVM.
Right. Yeah.
It's exciting. I'm glad. That's, I think, a feature that would make some people happy to know they can grow into
listen. I think we need that tool. So we need an ability to create Wax blockchain sidechain, Antelope sidechains, because I'm trying to plan ahead and what's going to happen if we have a lot of different successful projects, right? We need that horizontal scalability. Now the EVM sidechain is kind of in the same bucket of why we build all the bridges, right? Now, let's be honest. I've made certain assumptions of saying, hey, if we have these bridges, it's going to be much easier for people to adopt Wax, or it's going to be easier for Wax-based collections to be successful in these other ecosystems, right? Now, has number one, number two come to fruition? It did not, right? So you could make an argument that bridging didn't really provide any sort of expansion or advantage to the Wax ecosystem, because I can look today how many collections actually successfully bridged to the EVM ecosystem and got listed on OpenSea and other marketplaces, and it's a handful, 12, maybe 15 collections that tried that, and they failed. They were not able to generate the same traction over there. So, we have the tool. Did that tool allow people to create a sustainable business across different ecosystems? No, it did not. Now, I'm glad we have it, because those are, like I said, those are building blocks, kind of like Lego pieces that now I can start using to expand the offering of these different tools. But, is Wax L2 to Ethereum going to magically now, be successful? I mean, that remains to be seen. We'll see.
Right.
I mean, I can provide the tools, and I can make things as easy as possible. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the business model. Is it sustainable business model? is a use case that someone is solving, really addressing a pressing need? Can they build a community? Do they have customers that can actually, that they can acquire and keep in their ecosystem, right? I mean, I've said this before, I have massive respect for entrepreneurs and people who try to build in this space, because starting a business is hard enough. You add Web3 friction to it, you're gonna lose majority of the mainstream consumers. So,
well said.
But we will keep building. Well, like I said, 2024 is going to be all about these tools that allow us to scale, operate better, fix our tokenomics, hopefully, and then add this cherry on the top towards the end of the year or summer, where we can have a better connectivity to EVM ecosystem.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? If so, now's the time.
Cool stuff, guys.
I guess we are concluding in a short while. We have been together for an hour. Thanks, Lukas, for joining today and giving us a breakdown.
You're welcome. And if I don't talk to you guys before Christmas, have a great holiday. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, guys.
You too.
Thank you.
You too.
Hopefully 2024, we're gonna start seeing more blood coming into the ecosystem. I mean, we already see signs of life. If all the forecast models are correct, we should start seeing another cycle starting 2024, 2025. So we gotta be ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have you again here somewhere at the end of the next quarter.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I think it's great to connect directly with you guys and just kind of talk about where we are every quarter. So, Yanis, let's make that happen, man.
Yeah, for sure. Pablo was raising his hand for a last question.
Yeah, sorry, it was accidental.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Just wanted to say thank you for all the information and everything.
You're welcome, man. All right, guys.
Cool.
Thank you, guys, and I
Thank you.
will see you guys in Telegram and Slack, Discord, wherever.
Sure.
Yeah. Take care and see you soon.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye. Thank you.